Welcome to the Remington Podcast, where we take a deep dive into all things ammunition. I'm your host, Audrey Mays, and today I'm joined by Head of Research and Development, John Langenfeld.
In the flesh.
And Research and Development Engineer, Zach Caldwell.
Howdy.
We're here to talk about rifle cartridges specifically. I've been noticing that there's a lot of new cartridges on the market, which, kind of triggered something in my brain. I tend to stick to really traditional old school cartridges. Like, everyone knows that I shoot a 270, but 30-06, 300 Win Mag, all of that, 260 Remington. But all these new really trendy cartridges are hitting the market. The ARCs, the PRCs, and even 7mm backcountry. I wanted to talk about, why would you choose a new cartridge versus an old one? Or even, why do they exist?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, yeah, that's a big question. I think you can pretty much look at some fundamental design changes in all of these cartridges. We'll sit backcountry just kind of aside for a second, but
Right.
because it's a higher pressure, peak alloy case.
It's pretty different.
But if you look at all the other new cartridges that have come out over, say, the last, 5-7 years,
Mm-hmm.
there's usually one to two characteristics that differ those from a very similar legacy cartridge, in that your throat design in the chamber has a tight tolerance, so there's very minimal clearance of the bullet that is sticking outside the case, which gives you good alignment, better alignment with the bore to right from the start. And the cases are typically slightly shorter than kind of their legacy close comparison case,
Right.
which allows them to stick more bullet out of the case, which is optimized for longer projectiles of higher ballistic coefficients, which then in turn need faster twist barrels to stabilize them.
Okay.
And so most of them, as you loop them together, things like, Creedmoors, ARCs, PRCs, they're all designed that way. And if you start to look and compare to something like 6.5 Creedmoor, 260 Remington, twist rates are different. 260 Remington is a slower twist than the 6.5 Creedmoor. It's a slightly shorter case on the Creedmoor, so you have more bullets sticking out, but you can stabilize bigger, longer, heavier bullets. And so probably I would say that the drive behind all of these is for longer range, higher ballistic coefficient projectiles, more aerodynamic. And that's kind of the big fundamental difference right there. So inherently, you can have a little bit better dispersion based on better alignment with the bore, having that full bearing sticking outside the case mouth and that minimal clearance with the bullet. And then, you're going to launch a higher BC bullet. And so they've all got that. Now, why would you choose like PRCs and Creedmoors and ARCs? That kind of goes back into different. You can lump your legacy cartridges and say, well, why would I choose a 260 Remington over a 7mm Rim Mag or a 22-250? You've got a diversity of cartridges with velocities, bullet weights, and applications that they can be used, all with a new, fundamental change in the throat design.
Yeah.
And twist in the barrel.
So it's kind of similar to any cartridge development where you have a parent case and then you change some things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's more to it. There's more to whatever hole that the developers did to make these cartridges than just, hey, we think people want new guns.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There was.
Okay.
There's definitely design intent and purpose.
And purpose behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can ask the question, well, why would I choose a 6.5 Creedmoor over a 260 Remington or a 6mm Creedmoor over a 243 Winchester? I can give you my opinion why I would choose those, and then you can get into the fundamental difference between them, which helps objectively provide more than just opinion to say this is why this would be better, or not. You may still choose the legacy cartridges of a 243 or a 260, but it's probably going to be dependent on your application. And so, but understanding those differences, because I don't know that a lot of people know what those are, and if the newer designs are even worth it to them. Or if they have that cartridge, maybe they've already got a 260 Remington, and they're thinking, well, should I buy a 6.5 Creedmoor? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Zach, I know that you are like me. You shoot old school cartridges. I think you shoot a 30-06.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your opinion on something like a 6.5 Creedmoor?
I mean, I think they definitely have a use case, and like we said, they've grown in popularity recently. And I think from what I've seen, a lot of it is the draw for people to shoot further, and shoot longer ranges, even in hunting applications. And as glass improves, people get more confident in that, and some of these, like John said, the tighter throats and things give you that ability for longer bullets, higher BC, and you're getting more accuracy and more impact energy at those longer distances at 600, 700, 800, 1,000 yards. Where it's harder to produce that with 30-06 and some of your older cartridges. So that's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
It has that draw in my mind to entertain and potentially shift or acquire one of these for that potential to have a little bit more accuracy at long range.
Sure. I mean, I know that you're going on an elk hunt this year, or at least going to try to, but you're taking a 30-06. So
That's
you're going
yeah.
out west. Yeah. I mean, you're going to take a Wildcat because you're John Langenfeld, but you're going out west and you're taking an old cartridge. Why do you stick to the old one?
It's what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
I just don't have anything different yet. And typically right now I'm going to limit myself to 400 yards probably. And I'm fully confident 30-06 400 yards.
Gotcha. So you would say like maybe if you got comfortable shooting one of these longer distance cartridges, that you could then maybe increase that minimum or that maximum yardage that you're trying to reach for?
Yeah, it's something I've wanted to get into, and I just, it's all, you take it all with a grain of salt. It's all dependent on what your setup and your load and everything like that. It's your cartridge is just a vessel to put it down range,
right?
Essentially. But yeah, I haven't done a whole lot of long range shooting myself, so I don't have a ton of experience with it.
Yeah.
But definitely something I'm considering.
Yeah, for sure.
Kicking around.
Yeah. John, you made a face. Do you feel like it's all about experience and how you handle a cartridge, or?
No, but the one thing that came to mind is I wouldn't want to give the perception that you can't shoot longer range with a legacy cartridge. I mean, you yourself said that on your deer hunt that y'all were shooting targets beforehand, and you were shooting your 270 out to 600 yards. So
very controlled environment, but yes.
Right. And there's 1,000-yard matches that have been won with 300 Win Mags, 300 WSMs, and they don't have these characteristics. So there are things about the newer designs that lend themselves to making that a little easier with higher ballistic coefficient bullets having less wind drift. And you can start to look and get into the math of, what's my start, what's my muzzle velocity, what's my BC, compare those to the legacy cartridges of a bullet that you can't stabilize because your twist rate's not fast enough. And then you'll probably see that, out to like 500 yards, you might not see an advantage. Or maybe the legacy cartridge is faster, but the BC's higher in the newer design. And then you're going to start to see the newer design take over in trajectory. It's going to be flatter while the other one's falling off. And you can say, well, I can have a similar energy on target, things of that nature. And with all of that, you still have to make sure that you have a projectile that's going to perform at whatever distance it is that you're intending to harvest something.
Right.
But going back to the original question of why all these new cartridges, why are we tweaking things? Because used to, you would usually only see the new cartridge in a dramatic shift in caliber or velocity.
Okay.
So when you look at, let's just take the 30-06 as an example, and then go 300 Win Mag. Well, what's the big difference? Well, they're the same twist. They're shooting the same weight bullets. 300 Win Mag's faster.
Okay.
Okay, so 300,
good comparison.
300 Remington Ultra Magnum.
Yeah.
Same bullets, same twist, faster yet. And so dialing of scopes has always been around. But optics, quality, reliability has come a long way in the last 10 years. And used to, in order to be better at shooting, what would be the long side of pre-dialing distances, you would zero your rifle and try to get a maximum point blank range
Yep.
of usually plus or minus, let's just say 3 inches. Well, the only way to extend that range is going to be typically higher velocity if you're shooting the same bullets.
Right.
So all of those having 1 in 10 twist barrels, the only way to minimize that and say a point blank range at 250 or 280 or 290 is going to be speeded up. And so this takes a completely different approach because you can dial now, and with a higher ballistic coefficient, more aerodynamic projectile, you can then, where those older bullets, and they're going to slow down, these other ones are going to keep going a little flatter.
So you would have the same or similar terminal performance at a longer distance, essentially.
As long as the projectile is designed to do so, yes. But I think that's where the old school comparison of comparing a 30-06 to a 300 Win to a 300 Rum, and then you see something like, and 300 Weatherby, put 300 Weatherby right in there between the Win and the Rum. That's the horsepower race for speed.
Yes.
And there's even faster, 3378 Weatherbys. You talk about Lazzaronis. I mean, that's all speed-driven type cartridges. So why would you need a 300 PRC? How does it have a home in there when you've got all that velocity covered? But you got to look at more than just velocity. You got to look at the twist of the barrel. You got to look at the throat design. What weight of bullets are you typically launching out of those? And that's where you don't necessarily need all of the speed to have flatter trajectory and or increased precision. Now, when I say it's kind of inherent, you can take any of those old legacy cartridges in a well-built platform with a good barrel,
Right.
and they're accurate. But you can do things like having the tight clearance around the projectile with just factory ammo and kind of stack the odds in your favor that you're going to get less dispersion out of maybe a legacy cartridge.
So, like you said before, I'm just going to repeat. Because these new cartridges, the ARC, the PRC, the Creedmoor, are designed in a different fashion, they don't need to be as fast to be flat and go far.
Yep.
That's what we're saying.
You could say that. Yeah.
Okay, then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could
yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, say I'm in the market, right, for a new cartridge because, like I just said, I'm a classic girl. What's the difference between an ARC, a PRC, and a Creedmoor?
So I would first say, well, what do you want to do with it? What's your application? Are you shooting targets? Are you wanting to maybe compete in PRS? Are you strictly hunting? If it's hunting, what size of game would you be hunting?
Sure.
Same questions that I would ask about legacy cartridges. What are you going to do with it? How far do you want to shoot? How big a game do you want to hunt? That sort of thing. How much recoil can you withstand? You can ask those same questions about the cartridges the new designs that have come out recently, and from there be able to start to dissect, the differences. And, the PRCs, in my opinion, they're really geared toward extreme long range shooting and hunting. Not necessarily hunting at extreme long range, but there's extreme long range competitions where you shoot targets at extended ranges beyond what you would do, say, in PRS. And that's where something like a 300 PRC would shine, be a great elk rifle. 7 PRCs, very similar. You can compare ballistically, just say velocity-wise. You start looking at 7 Rim Mag, 7 Weatherby, 7 Rum. You're going to put it in family there velocity-wise. So to me, that's similar hunting application, but you're just going to be launching a different type of projectile. You might find that with that faster twist, the legacy bullet weights don't shoot as well because you're spinning them faster than what they need to, which can increase your dispersion. So you might find that it's really optimized for the bigger, longer, higher BC bullets with that fast twist. But the PRCs, in my mind, I kind of lump those into hunting cartridges.
Okay.
They're more recoil than you're going to want for PRS.
For when you have to fire off multiple
and
shots.
I don't know all the caliber restrictions and velocity restrictions on PRS, like I do like the Claybird sports and whatnot.
Right.
But just in general, regardless of the rules, way too much recoil, and you just don't need that. Those, in my mind, those are better hunting cartridges. And then you get down into the Creedmoor range, which is, like 308 sized case, short action, but they've all got that similar throat design. So velocity wise, you can go in and compare a 6.5 Creedmoor to a 260 Remington. Again, they've got that fundamental design difference in twist and throat design. You can hunt with it. I wouldn't hunt with it anything different than I would hunt with a 260 Remington.
Gotcha. I see a lot of like woodsmen transferring to the Creedmoors now. Just maybe because they want something new. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I see a lot of
absolutely.
people in short distance hunting.
If I owned
transferring
a
to the
260
Creedmoors.
Remington as a hunter, I would not go buy a Creedmoor.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Unless you want a fancy new gun, John. That's right up your alley.
So we're talking data-wise.
Okay.
Comparison. I think the Creedmoor shine as target PRS type rigs in the 22, the 6, the 6.5, and there's pros and cons within those of barrel life, velocity, time to target, that you can start splitting hairs and figure out what you like.
Yeah.
But to me, those are ones that they're great target rifles, punch and paper, ring and steel. The 6.5 would be something that if I had a 260, that's how I would compare the game that I would hunt with it. When I think of a 6 Creedmoor, think of a 243. To me, the 6 Creedmoor is a varmint gun, crossover deer gun. 243 has been known forever as that crossover varmint coyote / whitetail. Same thing with the Creedmoor.
Every Southerner's first rifle.
Right.
243.
So 6 Creedmoor, and then if you get down to 22 Creed, think about 22 250s, 220 Swifts, good varmint guns, but at the same time, you're dealing with a platform that's going to come and depending on how you build it or buy it, if you go buy it, they're going to come with a fast twist barrel, optimized for those big, long, heavy bullets. Those bullets may not be the best to use for your hunting application. So if you're going to buy factory ammo, see what kind of projectiles are offered, see if they have thermal performance, or if they're really all geared toward OTM match type for ring and steel. And then the arcs, the arcs are going to be more so, like the 22 arc is going to be, they compare to that a lot to a 22 250. It's usable in AR-15s. And, the 6 arc is, it's slower than a 6 Creed and a 243. I guess you could still, it's probably I think it still might be slower than a 6 BR. I don't know those ballistics intimately on the 6 arc, but very similar varmint coyote as a hunting rig.
Small maybe.
And
almost.
or you can still ring steel with it and probably use it for PRS. I'm not deep into PRS yet, but I don't hear much about the arc. I hear stuff about Creedmoors, GTs, Dashers, BRs, things like that. Some of the Lapuas, and so that's, like I said, I think those are a little bit more mainstream. But I don't know why, if you have the right bullets that you wanted to shoot an AR-15 with a 6 arc, that you probably couldn't do it. But
Maybe
there may be better cartridges to do it with. So, if you look at it all overarching fundamentally, throat design, barrel twist, higher BC bullets, that's your big difference between the two, legacy versus new. And then within new, it's going to be, what's your application? Am I hunting? Do I need speed and bullet weight? I'm more target shooting with maybe some hunting too.
Yeah.
And or, do I want something that fits an AR-15?
Yeah, Zach, you were talking earlier about like how these different categories fit into different platforms like that.
Yeah.
Can you bring that up again?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where where John's getting at, where you get the ARC is the only one that's going to fit in AR-15. The PRC and the Creedmoors are AR-10, so it's a little bit bigger, heavier platform.
At least the Creedmoor is. I don't know that they're putting any of the PRCs in ARs. Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm not sure.
They're bigger. I mean,
Just-
they're big, long.
just
I mean,
big
it's like 300
cartridges.
300 PRC is, it's full length. So it's just, it's longer than the 7. But, yeah, I would say your Creedmoors, of course, are AR-10.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody's doing anything. If it is, it's some like one-off oddball stuff.
Yeah. And I think that might be why we see a lot of Creedmoors in the PRS world or in the action shooting world, because
There's a few 10s out there. I see most of guys in PRS running bolt guns. But you like I said, they'll fit in a 10.
Yeah. Yep. So we kind of covered old, and we covered.
So so there's one thing that I also think is kind of interesting on the PRC. The diameter of that case is the belt diameter of our legacy cartridges. And so when you start to look at parents and parent cases and then what they're formed off of or where do they fit in, there's a lot of cartridges that are based off the old H&H case, the belted Magnum. So 7 rim mag, 300 Win mag, 338 Win, the Weatherbys, except for the big, 378 stuff. But, all your 300, your 7, 257, 270, those are all, they've got that H&H parent of different lengths. And then when you go up from there, before the PRC family and the 375 Ruger and all that stuff, which those are new but not of that like longer range category, you go up to what we would call like the rum case, the 404 Jeffrey diameter, and that was your parents. That's what you built things off of.
Yeah.
So the PRCs have a diameter. And I don't know if it's all of them. I think it's all of them. That the body diameters are the belt diameter of the old H&H case. So there's no belts on them, and the powder capacity and your diameter really is kind of in between the old H&H and the 404 Jeffrey, which is closely to the Ultra Magnum.
Okay.
And so you can essentially fit the same number of rounds in a gun that you can of the old H&H. Without, so you're not sacrificing magazine capacity and things like that. I'm thinking that they did that off of the, I think it was the 375 Ruger was the first one that was of that body diameter, and then these kind of, flowed in, behind that.
Yeah, I see a lot of PRCs, a lot of people shooting PRCs when they hunt things like bear, like bigger animals, bigger, denser animals.
Well, it would be similar applications where you'd pick maybe a 300 Win mag, 300 rum, 7 rim mag, 7 Weatherby, things like that. They're big game cartridges. The 6.5 PRC is one that I would say I would relate it kind of close to a 270. In my mind, that's what I kind of think about when I look at 140 grain bullets at about around 3,000 feet per second.
Yeah.
So, but the difference is going to be in your sectional density and your ballistic coefficient, things like that, short action, long action. And,
Sure.
And that's, we talked about new cartridges primarily with like ARC PRC Creedmoor. There was a time when there was like a short magnum craze happening where Winchester came out with WSMs, Remington came out with short action ultra mags, and that was all about shorter, fatter cases, more efficient propellant burn. You could do a short action, shorter barrel, and very closely or replicate your legacy cartridge performance. So that was its own time period of difference from legacy.
Yeah.
Was here we're going short mag, and right now we're going fast twist barrel, tight throat, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's trendy.
Yeah.
It's like the new trend in the shooting world and the hunting world. Yeah, going back to the 7 PRC, our good friend Colby Moorhead, the Bear Hunting Magazine owner, he shoots our premier long range and our premier cut in 7 PRC, and he says that it's great.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and like I said, all he hunts is bear.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you could compared it to a 270.
The 6.5.
The 6.5. Okay, gotcha.
Yep,
I was like,
yep.
How?
The 7mm is going to be, like I said, when you think of legacy, it's going to be more 7 rim mag, 7 Weatherby, 7 rum, all that stuff. It's going to be in that bigger game category where you'd use those 7s. Yeah, and then the backcountry.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about old, we talked about new, and there's a new.
Oh yeah,
which is the backcountry.
So when you start looking at backcountry and how do I compare it to whether it's legacy or this new family of long range, and you say why?
Yeah.
Why backcountry? Well, with longer range shooting, higher BC fast twist barrels for the higher BC bullets. Shorter barrels are becoming popular.
Yes, because you want to put a suppressor on there.
Because you want to put a suppressor on
Yeah.
there. So when barrel lengths go down, you start to lose velocity. And so what the beauty of the backcountry is with its higher chamber pressure, you can put that shorter barrel on, use your suppressor, and not sacrifice performance. Why why would you not want that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking in a deer blind.
And if you didn't want, say you don't use a suppressor, if you go put a 24, 26-inch barrel on backcountry, you're talking like 28 nozzler speed. It's fast.
It's moving.
Yeah, and because the case is just, very closely, almost looks like a 280 Ackley improved, which is your .6 family of case, you can fit 5 rounds down the magazine. And so you've got more case capacity relative to the Magnums, but you truly have Magnum performance of something that's like the big 404 case, with a full-length barrel. So technology all coming together, and I'm gonna put a backcountry or two together and different applications. One of them being kind of like an old legacy type rifle, sporter weight barrel, no suppressor, stuff like that. Wring a bunch of velocity out of it, and then the flip side of that is probably something of a more modern. What you think of more modern with like a vertical grip, carbon barrel, can, things of that nature, to just kind of dabble in both worlds.
Yeah. So again, going back to John just wants a fancy new gun, or two.
I don't like to choose, so I just get it all.
Yeah. No, the 7mm backcountry is a really interesting case. I think that you'll see it a lot in the West because it's lighter.
Sure.
For the shorter barrel, but I think you'll see it a lot in the East because in a deer blind, suppressors are like the best thing ever.
Oh yeah. Well, and not just from a noise standpoint. I think it's general common knowledge. People know this, but if it's not, suppressors also reduce recoil. So they change the direction of the and velocity of your gas at muzzle exit.
Yep.
Which is similar to what a muzzle brake does. So you get not only recoil reduction, but you also get the noise reduction as well. So when you have that Magnum performance with the shorter barrel and the suppressor, and you don't give up your velocity, you don't get the recoil of the Magnum, and you cut some sound.
That's pretty sweet.
That's backcountry.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. I can't wait to get my hands on one and pull the trigger and see if I want a fancy new gun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or two.
Is there any last minute thoughts that you guys have? Old school versus new? No. I feel like we said a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot there.
Yeah.
But very high level, just to, educate and, figure out if you're going to go buy that next rifle, or, you've already got a legacy one. Do you want a new one or whatever? Look at those things, and that's going to probably help you decide what you want and if you want to go that route at all. I think I've got a 6.5 Creedmoor on a rifle that I can switch all the barrels on, and so I'm not just locked into it.
Right.
And I bought that to just kind of maybe play with maybe some deer hunting in Arkansas with it, practice shooting it, things of that nature. But the other new cartridges that I have are in a PRS rig, so big, heavy barrel, things like that for hitting targets.
Yeah. Pretty far down range.
Yeah. My big game hunting is still going to be with legacy stuff, except backcountry.
And wildcats.
Yeah, I'll skip all that other stuff and go to backcountry.
Okay.
Yep.
Honestly, not a bad choice. I'm going to stick to my 270.
For now.
I know we're all shocked. But thanks for sitting down with me, guys, and going through this stuff. I think it's always really helpful. And you guys let us know if you think it's helpful. So there you have it, guys. Remington is on the rise. Like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to share this podcast with your hunting or shooting buddies. If you have any questions for me or John and Zach here, you can email us at podcast@remington.com.